It looks. Oh, got it. That's good. That's very helpful. That means we're already.
Why is it so kind of blurry there?
That's just because we need to get rid of my profile. That's my makeshift profile on the.
Can I go downstairs and get my printing now?
Okay, and I'll have a look see if I can change that profile picture. Okay. You need to set yours to gallery as well because you've got.
To do what?
You need to set view to gallery.
Where do I do that?
So in there, you've got your settings in the Zoom, and on the right hand corner is view. You got it as me. That's me basically. That awful blurry picture. But there now it's you because there's only 2 of us in the meeting. So when there's more people, the gallery should expand.
Okay.
But that view button gives you control as to what is being.
Turn up the camera so it's not on me.
I think the camera's zooming on. Actually, what you can do is take your picture. If you don't want it on, you can take your picture off. Yeah, that would help. And what should happen when more people join? There's only 2 of us in the room. So gallery.
Like self view.
Yeah, good. I think that's good. Didn't work. Well, you could say stop video. See there, stop video on there. That just stops your videos. It gives your name. Okay. Now when. That's why I put that blurry picture because I was trying to get rid of that myself.
I go back to the video.
You could just go back to me then, but so what should happen when? Now hold on, there's something wrong here because that camera's not interfacing, is it? Of course. just going to test. I may as well keep my audio on, wouldn't I?
Can I hear Is it, how do we know?
It's really difficult to know without checking YouTube and all the rest of it. But I'll have to switch.
Let me just sort out my because worst case scenario we'll have.
So it should pick up the audio from my computer if it doesn't pick up there. I don't think it's picking up there, otherwise there'll be a feedback.
This committee is going to welcome. This committee would like to welcome.
You don't need one welcome.
We'd like to welcome absolutely wonderful Councillor Chatto.
You understand that?
Wonderful Councillor Chatto.
Who was on this committee before?
Last year,
Yeah.
Okay. Hiya. How's it going? It is that mold. No worries. Terribly sorry. This is actually under committee. I'm guessing. Yes.
Some people will not.
Would you mind just looking out? So thank you so much.
Why isn't it?
Okay, and finally, I'd like to mention that Councillor Kennington has left the committee. This decision was ratified at the ODA Scrutiny meeting on the 14th this month. In his place, the committee would like to welcome the absolutely wonderful Councillor Chatto.
Shane, well, you better not keep saying it. You said that by accident, right? Our WhatsApp's just going to be moving tomorrow.
I'm not saying that. That's word for word. That's verbatim what I'm doing. Right.
Right.
And I do think
I'm not taking any touch. I'm going to stop the phone to my phone. Shouldn't be probably to my phone. Should I?
Fine, all right, I'll be boring. Might as well. Councillor Chatto, it's never short. It was never short.
So I maybe encourage the members to donut chair a bit more. So you're a bit more on camera. Yeah, so we'll need a space for Councillor Cornwall, but otherwise, if we can kind of use.
Do we have any declarations of interest? Anybody been?
Builder. Is that better? Are we all there on one?
You're not.
Doesn't need to be on it.
We do. We need you. Of course it does. So, sorry, just going through. So we've got item 2, declarations of interest, and we're going to go through to item 3, which is the minutes. Now, we found some errors in the last minute, so I'll say next item is 3 minutes of the meeting on the 19th of April. We're just going to interject and say, actually, there's literally 2 minutes. Or you want me to Okay, so what I'm saying is I'm saying that on page 11 of our report, directly public realm, it says it takes directly public realm express that you've done able to answer that question. That's not quite an accurate reflection of the conversation. Directly public realm actually said its focus was not on that metric, but other metrics. That's a diplomatic way of putting it.
Absolutely.
Can I ask the screening officer, to review the YouTube video of the meeting? Okay, sir. So we'll do that. So I'm going to just go over on 23 minutes and we'll changes. And then I'll say I move that the minutes of the meeting regeneration of environment scrutiny commission held on 19th of April. Once those changes are made, so when the second meeting will go, yeah, me, and I'll go, thank you, I'll agree, and we'll go, yeah, brilliant. Then we'll go to item 7, which is the Housing Business Experience Scrutiny Commission Work Programme. The Commission will make the approach. I'm not going to say observations.
Yes.
Is that right? Sorry, is that
Say that again.
the next meeting includes reports on homelessness and temporary accommodation experience?
That's what's listed in the work programme currently.
That's fine, right.
My understanding is the next meeting is the 3rd.
Right, okay, so guys,
Stop.
we've got questions, we can buy with it. All right, where are the victims sitting? Sorry.
It should be opposite the.
Are they going to be?
I think it's identical, and college's got technical set up issue. But we've got this system here. Unfortunately, it's just now it's kind of focus.
So are they not going to be able to be on camera?
I don't think so.
All right, that's
So you might have the recording.
Okay. Questions. So if you want some questions, let me send you some when the meeting starts. Please don't less than you both have questions.
Yeah, I've got very much.
All right, that's good. I think just generally damp and mold strategy fine, but we'll give them a chance to explain it. And then the next paper afterwards, Tony's going to be leading on it, so it's the last, right?
Yes.
So we'll dig into that when it comes, and then we'll finish the meeting. Okay, great. Can you let me?
Okay, then press record.
That's just thank you, Michael.
You got it. Sorry. Sorry,
Yeah.
thing. Not mine. Something. Oh, no, it's on your screen. Thank you. Can you find your Zoom?
At the bottom,
Just like, get rid of that.
get rid of that.
There you go. This was a copy. That's all right. Isn't it?
Yeah. Why am I so looming large on yours?
Don't know.
So numbers. We are one core.
Three, your core through three.
Three core. Sorry?
You just got made, haven't we?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, guys. So I do appreciate it. It was a bit difficult.
I just see the agenda in this.
Do you think we might be ready to go live at 19:05?
Yeah, we will be. We'll be ready to go live.
You haven't got a surge on
I mean, I have.
I'm worried it's Tony. So
We've got one for Tony.
yeah, that's Tony.
Okay, well, how about if I give you this one? We've only got one member of the public.
There's member of the public?
Yes, we've got a member of the public.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello, where's your message?
On this side, please.
Hi, Jack. Guys.
Hello. Thank you.
There you go. Right, well, I've got a script here. Like, there you go. No wrong stuff. Yeah. There is a script here. I think. It's right.
So, hello. So, in fact, we can move straight to. Just so that we.
So we're going to figure out 3, 7, 5, 6, 4. This says
You might be with that.
Issues, so if you can bear with us, please. So we are recording.
Hello, everyone.
We're ready for you. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Good evening, everyone. I will say that everyone who is here remotely and you are interviewing. So this meeting is held in your town hall. Members are able to join us physically, are able to do remotely. However, they will not be able to attend, will not be officially reported, although the virtual attendance will be noted in the minutes. I'd like to welcome members of the public and the press who are here present or who are viewing remotely on YouTube. With regard to meeting etiquette, I intend to take items in order of the agenda. And I also ask members present, if you wish to speak, please do so by raising your hands. And any members who are viewing remotely or taking part remotely, can you raise your virtual hand? This meeting of the London Borough Premium Housing and Residential First item, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yeah. So I've had apologies from I've had apologies from County Victoria, Lola and Chandler.
That noted. The corporate note, apologies for absence. Decorator Minister.
Sorry, Chair. One more thing before we move on to the item. I think it's worth mentioning that Councillor Penton has left the committee. That decision was ratified at the Odeon Scrutiny meeting on the 14th this month. But in his place, we have Councillor Chapman, who has never joined the inside.
I think we have any not the corporate note, minutes. I move that the minutes of the housing and resident experience meeting of the 19th of April be accepted as correct.
Sorry, Chair. Just quickly, we do have some amendments to the minutes. It's one very quick amendment. which is on page 11 of the agenda pack. It states the Director of Public Realm expressed that he's unable to answer that question. I don't think that's quite an accurate reflection of the station. Director of Public Realm actually said that his focus was not on that metric, but other metrics. So can I take the opportunity to suggest the scrutiny officer review the YouTube video of that meeting and affect those changes?
Yeah. Is that agreed? Agreed. If that's no objection, I will be action for that. Thank you. The order of this agenda is being reordered, so I now have item 7. Item 7 is the council resident experience. Sorry, no. We'll forgive me for that.
Chair, if I may, I think you can take the items in order we had planned in the eventuality that you would be joining us late.
Okay.
So I think it's possible for you to take the items in the order of the agenda if you wish.
Okay, so therefore we'll be going on to item 5 down to 60. Okay. Thank you. So for this item, we do have a councillor staff over here, and we'll take it by the public. Are you here to this item also?
I am.
Okay. So can I ask you to introduce the item?
Yeah, I'll just introduce the purpose. That dump mold strategy. Purpose of the strategy is to formulate and establish an operational process we already have, bringing together activities of different housing into a single housing strategy. Number 2, set out our ambitions to ramp up our efforts to tackle damp mold in order to reduce the rate of damp mold. 3, we also provide assurances to residents of the process in place to take action against damp mold and causes of that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Deepak, anything you want to add?
I have nothing to add.
Any officer want to be as brief as Charles?
Just to say that we've provided the information as part of the key lines of inquiry and the appendices, so they're happy to take questions on the information.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I'm part of the members. If there are any members who should ask any question and the example notes. Councillor Coleman?
Dumping mold is something endemic within the borough itself, and many properties seem self-funded. What is the reason in your mind is what causes damp and mold?
And the cost of borough, obviously, as you're aware, we have a banking stock profile. So we have got plant pools that have multiple roads, windows, penetrating down, rising down. The panels have the environment within the property. We've got condensation build-ups. So there's a whole range of reasons for that build-up. And over the years, properties have changed in their usage, the way that we use them, the number of people that live in properties, that kind of thing can exacerbate some of the issues.
As far as I can remember, years ago, but this never happened. Yeah, I mean, my house, it's never had this, although I'm always still seem to come back. So, hence, that's my question. So, how do you treat it?
Well, we look at the first approach. So, what we look at the building itself first, see what the issues are in the building. So, we look at thermal efficiency, itself, the property. So, the windows, the walls themselves, the external walls. We look at general infrastructure, so the plumbing, structure, the heating, all those items. So, we look at every element actually with the prevention. What we tend to do is we work from the fabric, and then we work into the environmental conditions, and then we look at ventilation, specifically And we'll work through a number of measures until we get to the point where we've solved the problem within that property. So it can be, as I say, it can be a combination of some of our tool blocks, ranging stock, we have sort of leaks coming through the bathrooms, that sort of thing, soil stack. Some of the just general infrastructure in the building is old, and we're looking at, I mean, a lot of our capital strategy is looking at replacing those items, and then looking at public costs and further efficiency of the property. So that's where we start. That's our starting point. And the end point, you know, we've got ventilation along the way, we've got positive heat systems we can put in, positive air ventilation, heat recovery systems. There's a multitude of measures we can put in place to actually alleviate the problem. And we don't stop any of them. We'll make sure we try what we have.
So the residents informs or complains about the wall. What is the criteria for prioritizing?
The conference that whole task which they are having to supply the business property and then put it on. So I mean, that's the thing. We've got some worse than others. But there's no specific priority. One for itself, some time, what's weather and
there's a number of channels that we can take. Hospitals, take the referrals, vulnerable residents to be vulnerable residents. They are from the photographs, they can submit their issues around our also papers through to our contact centre in order to be able to be referred to the hospitals. And we have two response from the virus.
You identify, for example, let's say a household with children and a household with only adults. Does it affect differently the children against the roof, or it's the same to every human being is living in the room?
To John, but I think it depends. Yes, how many people are living. Yes, yes, definitely how many people has what pre-existing conditions are pushing.
Yeah, I mean, but I also give some health issues. So what we look at is look at the worst case scenario. We can look at so we would be prepared to do that on that front. But in general, but health conditions could not be.
This is just the new they see in this strategy. What do you already understand?
Come across that some. In terms of all the strategies we put together, the retrofit program that we're doing, every part of that capital strategy is towards improving the property. So the ultimate aim is at the end to have a stock which is a condition where this is the exception rather than the rule.
What is the long run? I mean,
right, so this is until 2025. What happens if that falls into line with the overall housing delivery strategy, and we have an interim asset management strategy that is about to come into, or to be hopefully to go to cabinet to be agreed.
The resident housing asking what is the long term?
So in the
it's the answer is that in the long term we put strategy. So if I'm listening to this, I would like to know 2 years, 5 years, before the strategy is down and more.
So we've got a proactive program of inspection across the borough. So we intend to inspect and hopefully 100% by the end of it, all of our properties. they actually physically turn up and inspect their property. If we find an issue with their property, through all of that scheme, whether it be just
to my question, your long term means 3 years.
we essentially on our long-term program, our long-term inspection program for the next 3 years.
Area inspection, I'm talking when you mentioned eradication, so let's talk about eradication. When are we open to eradicate? Because that is what you're saying. We are telling members of the public that the aim of the strategy is to eradicate that for more in the long term. We're not even talking about the short term yet. So in the long term, I need you to quantify that for a resident so that they can be sitting at home and say, wow, the next couple of years, I will have it down. You quantify that.
I think that we have an asset management strategy that will be reviewed every 5 years. So what we hope to do is in the first 3 years to inspect all of our properties to identify where there's damage, and then the capital program of works and funding to be able to eradicate will happen over a 5, 10-year period, which is a normal process for ensuring that we have the right capital money to be able to invest in refurbishment.
Like 1 year is in the property with damp and water. You're telling me, right? And so maybe consider you may get into well, no, I think what's your political ambition in terms of eradicating damp and all on that says eradication.
I think the main political ambition is to actually invest in all our stock, upgrade it, and make sure that it meets the decent home standard fit for purpose. Also, work with residents to actually eradicate, like I said to you, if we do get cases of damp and mold, to actually do a first time fix and deal with those cases first time. And I think, you know, we have got an aging stock, which we are going to be investing, which we are going to be looking to retrofit, and hopefully also look at other means, i.e. look at devices put into those properties so we can detect when we're doing this capital works program retrofitting, we're going to put the right sort of devices in to detect damp and mold so we can treat it at the first instance.
Okay, what if you know that the other recognize in terms of the long term, and I cannot push any further than that push to get quantify is up to now. I haven't got a fix term in terms of years. So I need to consider maybe you can consider the pathway.
Thank you, Chair. Just to obviously we'll talk about 2 different sets of stock here. We're talking about out stock, which my colleagues have been discussing, but obviously we need to also consider the private rented stock and that of the TA stock. So the words in regards to eradication is an ambition. It's not necessarily a reality. That's 2 different things. Because that happens for various different reasons. I guess the reality is thinking about where we are, how we got here, and what legislation is said about damp and mold. We are looking to try and ensure that all properties where residents live in are safe properties and are dealt with in a timely fashion. So ensuring that the works that need to carry out, they carry out in a timely fashion. But for the stock which we have no real, they're not our properties, they're private rented sector. It's about ensuring that relationships between landlords and the residents in those properties are very strong relationships in order to we can be able to check and ensure that properties are up to standard. You know, the ambition to eradicate damp and mold is, you know, it would be wrong of us if we said we didn't want to do that. We want to do that. We want residents to live in environments that are safe. How realistic that we could give you a time on that is slightly different, just because there are multiple different factors you have to bear in mind. And there are some of the factors in which we discussed a moment ago in regards to the reasons why mold may take place.
Thank you for that answer. However, we've just got the strategy. I asked what is the aim of the strategy. The aim of the strategy is to eradicate damp and mold. I cannot reasonably expect the council to have major interest in the private sector. But the private sector, we can utilize the license scheme as well to leverage some influence, but that's different. However, where we have control our own stock, and if the aim of the strategy is to eradicate, then, and asking this for this, we will probably, if the aim of the strategy is to relocate, which is a local ambition, it's what we all want for a resident. In order for us to all you to account, we want to know when are you hoping to eradicate? Okay? That is what, and I'm asking it because if I'm living in a house with damp and mold, and I'm listening to this exchange now, I would want you, councillor, to tell me when I can get some respite, when it can start and move. And I'll give you one more about and one more, and if you can answer it, I move on.
At the end of the day, we've got an aging stock which we're investing, and that investment's going to go over the next 3 to 4 years, right? Once we invest in that stock, also we've got capital works programs shown that hopefully we won't eradicate it because it's damp and mold. You can invest in the stock, but the main thing is we want to drive our standards up and get our properties up to decent home standards. We get up to decent home standards. You should see a big drop, a major drop in damp and mold. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We've got an aging stock which we're not invested in, and we're actually starting that investment program now, and hopefully that investment program is going to go for 4 years. So you should see. We can't eradicate damp and mold, but you should see a large drop in damp and mold over that period when we start investing in our stacks, our drainage, our roofs, on our existing stock. So that should make a big difference.
We are going with anyway, I will move on. I will come back.
If you don't mind, I'll just point you to the first page of the strategy. It doesn't talk to eradication, it talks to processes and all the rest of it. So, you know, it's,
thank you.
I appreciate the
I give up the resident. The resident is not seeing the benefits of the strategy. We see it, and what I need to teach of is answers for the resident. This is a very sensitive for a lot of our residents. And so that if it's there, you to bring it out and tell us this is what agents say. I can only go on what is being said. I will move on now. I reserve the right to come back on this. And because I know that what to ask and come to ask.
I've got various questions. We've got a simple question. If someone telephones, most people telephone rather than how quickly would it be resolved?
As part of that, so it will be immediately referred to the Duncan Task Force, and within 72 hours of the inquiry, we will be able to respond and arrange for an inspection. And within 4 weeks, we will then to carry out the work that's required to deal with the Duncan. However, I think there is a section of the properties that may require further work which can take them.
Yeah, it all depends on how one strategy arrived and carried out the inspection prior. We expect a long place to be within 4 to 5 weeks maximum. If there's extensive works that we need to carry out, I referred to earlier when we might need some residents and stuff like that. Also, we have procurement we have to go through, so that can take periods of time to go through. It really is difficult to say. An absolute, depends on the level of damp mold, depends on how extensive the works we have to carry out. It also depends sometimes if other properties are involved within that. So sometimes it's not just that property which is affected, it can be multiple properties affected by the same problem. So where we've got sort of tower blocks, we have leaks coming through 4 or 5 properties. So that would obviously take a longer piece of work. So it's not finite, I can tell you it's exactly 4 or 6 weeks for any of them, but we're going to deal with a fairly simple house within 4 weeks.
Thanks. So guys, I don't think it's been said before, but I actually thought that the papers you gave us were incredibly well written, incredibly detailed. They really answered some of our questions, and they were also very communicative with the scrutiny process. This committee previously had a pre-meet where we asked certain questions of you guys, and you provided those answers in a really accessible format. So I did just want to very quickly say thank you for that. It was really insightful paper. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. Some of my colleagues might come on to the next, but I did just want to jump onto what Councillor Hudson was asking about in terms of the time. I understand you said that. Apologies, just checking through my notes. On page 7, question 3 of the report, you mentioned in your answers there, we've got this thing where 25% of the cases take longer than 4 weeks, and you're saying that's normally because larger works need to go to tender. So is that, what percentage of that 25% is because of that needs to go out to tender? And what percentage is different was really my question. I'm hoping that the documents I read match up in terms of page numbers of the documents you read. Page data, I apologize.
But fact, some places might be a bit of or we have risk on the costs. But
that delay really is down to that tendering process.
Majority of that.
So in which case I wanted to talk about the tender process. And in one of the appendices, I can't remember which, so I don't have it in front of me. You show that process of going through the flow chart. The flow chart's the one I'm talking about. So that tender process is based just on cost. That's what it says in the flow chart. Yeah. And I think that's good. I think that we need to make sure that we are acting sort of financially efficiently. But what I wanted to know is, does that approach, do those tenders, do they represent value for money? Is there effective contract management on those tenders? And do we make sure that that's embedded within the kind of framework that I'm guessing we use? But my concern is that we might go out to tender for these repairs, and we might get someone who just underquotes, and it might end up costing us more in the long run because we spend ages having to contract manage them, and we spend ages having to send them back and forth to get the repair right. So I just wanted some assurance on that.
So in terms of the tender process, once we get the same component limit, which is consent, that's when we have to our contracts are vetted. If that contract is work, so people will have the schedule of right works. So we specify works as against the method rights. So in terms of an underpart, it wouldn't be possible to know what the price rate is for that. So if someone just wanted a underpart rate, no, we have a rate we go into the tender with, so we know what the rate is for those items that we want to carry out. So you generally find that the tenderers will be on or around. And you can talk about analog practices that have worked with so it's a known quantity of contracts.
Right. So if that's the case, if you have these contractors who've worked for you for a long time, is there any efficiency that can be made in that process to speed it up so that we can hit that 25%, we can reduce that time that people take to get the big tenders done?
So our process, I mean, we're heavily by euros. Put to these and it must go out to the tender. So at least we must follow that road.
But things like there's a dynamic person system that's used for other parts of council or various other frameworks. Is there any spread of that? Is that kind of what goes on?
So we have explored it. The issue with the first each job will still be through a mini competition. So it's you still have a period of time for the mini comp. Well, even on call-off, we'd still be looking at potentially a week, like a year, a quarter contract. So we have a contract. What we're trying not to do is to tie ourselves into a single contractor.
Yeah.
In order that we've got sufficient people to actually carry out the works quicker. We have tried it. and just preferably follow me. We're not talking about weeks and weeks and weeks for a second. So we're not talking about 10 million for 5 weeks. We're generally talking about a week or 10. Okay. So it doesn't hold you back by weeks on end. It holds you back by probably 7 to 10 days maximum.
Sure, I've written in my notes, so I was going to recommend you go away and look at how you can smooth that process, but it sounds like you already have, so thank you very much.
Thank you,
Like Councillor Hudson, I've got several areas, but I'll focus for a couple of points. You've asked in the papers for views from overview scrutiny. Did you mean overview scrutiny, or did you mean this committee, or both?
We meant this committee, sorry.
Yes, so we meant this. So maybe the record just needs to show that it's this committee that's being consulted. Thank you. And again, I've got echo of Councillor Godfrey's comments that it's really thorough, it's really comprehensive. But a couple of points in that spirit of asking the comments from this committee. I've got 2 main areas. You're going to be coming back to this committee over future years. You're going to be talking about this topic again and again. And as I think we've all it's going to take a long time to resolve. How long are you going to continue saying it's a legacy issue? Because the word legacy is mentioned several times in these papers. And I think we have to be clear from the outset. When does it stop being a legacy issue and somebody else's problem and our problem? That's not to demean to say you are not taking it seriously. It's just to say residents aren't happy when people don't take ownership. So that's one point. Second point is taking on board the complex nature of actually addressing some of these issues and some of these repairs. We don't have any council standard. Do we have a council standard response time for how it goes through the task group? So I take on board that the repair may take a longer time to actually enact, but do we have a resident contract standard time? And my final point. My round, colleagues, is that one? Well, actually 2 points. I've got the equality impact assessment. This has been costing us a fortune, and I'm not going to say that this should have cost us because we owe this to residents. So all the amount of money spent on this is good. Any rough idea how much? Is there a budget set aside for how much we're spending on this? For the damp and mould? No, sorry, for the damp and mould for work, for the task force, for everything.
Okay, so within the documents, we've got over the next 3 years, £2 million set aside. And that will include that will include 200. Not two. 200. No, 200 as well. Sorry, we've got £200 million set aside, and that will be the major works and improvements, for example, and it's also the works to promote decarbonisation. Okay. So that's 200 million over 3 years.
So on that point, can I encourage you to go back and look at the quality impact assessment? Because by the council's own notes, it says that if there was a spend of more than 500,000, there must be more thorough quality impact assessment. And I think there may be more merit in helping you to achieve your own objectives if this quality impact assessment is done again. Another suggestion may be that instead of reviewing this every 3 years, as you have it currently, this is a live dynamic system. You will need to prioritise which protected characteristics, like people with disabilities, that you bring up further onto the board. Would it not be a good investment of time to make sure that the task the most vulnerable states would be revisited this quality impact assessment? So that's a suggestion. And then my final point is about the Ombudsman report. Can you talk me through the whole process of how that came into being and what? And I am very clear that the task force is responding to it and everything else. But what I'm really concerned about is why did it even end up at the Ombudsman to begin with?
I think the Ombudsman's findings and determination is clear. We found from that by service needs to cover it. I think it was very comprehensive, the determination of the Ombudsman gave. It was a case that was pre the Dunbar task force. And that's not to say legacy, because that is the largest responsibility to be sure we should deal with that case in a different way. Are you able, as a task force, to report the number of complaints going forward?
It's a number of complaints, yes, to that area of work.
Yes.
Have we got any other cases? For damp and mold cases, not that I'm aware of. No. Who would be aware of that? We can provide that information to the Commission if you wish. If we can provide that, I think that means now we can provide that down. That's did you want me to respond to that? The EQI, which I think is a so sorry, Jeff.
No, go on before I come in.
Okay, so I think your suggestion, the EQIA, is an excellent one, and I will certainly be looking at that with my colleagues across the piece, because obviously it's more than one housing area that we're looking at, and we're talking about housing requirement. You're completely right about the use of language or legacy. It's sometimes difficult to describe that we haven't invested in our stock the way we should have in previous years. So once the damp and mould strategy comes into force, and we have a public consultation for 6 weeks during the month of June up until the month of July, we certainly we take full ownership that the issue belongs to the housing department, and what we do going forward, because this is our document that we're using as our template to improve the services that we provided to residents, in particular with damp and mould.
So I think in that vein, we can look at this strategy as kind of the baseline. When you come back to report on it, we won't see the word legacy, historic issues.
Yes, I've taken that away as well. Standards. In regards to what the standards should be with works that are
not works, response.
The response.
So in terms of response, I mean, that whole
Not that bit. How the bits about how long does it take from the call coming into the call centre, if it's working, to the task force work group? How long is that? How long before the referral gets passed through?
Should say like someone comes in within 24 hours, I would assume.
Could we get data on that going forward?
And as we've got the website for reporting, so they go immediately into that task force. We have we have other officers who visit properties on a daily basis, like they have seen about housing those officers. Also, that's another reporting group. We'll actually get more data from them as well, so they report back to us issues that maybe the resident hasn't. Sometimes we have to get involved with telling us, and then we can go to the parts of residents.
I think we have to explain that each case is different, and we prioritise them in that way. For serious cases of where we need to, in some cases, move the resident immediately. Those cases are dealt with swiftly, and then so there's prioritisation within those referrals.
Before that, we got front of us and tell us what the changes in the law. But just for the problem, then you briefly tell us and the memory report to what is changed. Because as I said before, the policy is interested in this topic. So can you tell us what has changed since then? And your approach to damp and mold.
Okay, so
brief summary.
So the brief summary is the one that that changed it. So and we provided the information about the structure of the damp and mold task force, the process for the damp and mold task force, and what it is that we have achieved since we set the task force up. So I think going back to
what have you achieved? I mean, the problem is I can see something there, but they are not seeing it. Okay. I after this meeting, I want the public to confident that you know what human is. They're hearing us, they're going to fix this.
Okay.
I'm not hearing that yet, so I want them to hear it.
Okay. So following the key number of my question 8 sets out the task force, since the start of the task force in 2021, we've spent around £8.5 million on repairs and dealt with 2,100 inquiries. So that's the achievement of setting up the damp and mold task force. We've got a specific specialist team that are delivering a responsive service to people that are reporting issues of damp and mold in their property, so we can deal with it swiftly as we can. So that in a nutshell, and what can now was the fact that we required a dumping off strategy that pulled together not only our own housing stock, but the other streams of work that were happening in the extended inflation and private rental sector. So that's what we've done since, and that's why we consulted publicly on this document, because we want to make sure, and at tenant and leasehold forums, because we want to make sure we engage as much as possible with residents so they know what it is that we are planning to do. And the strategy sets out within the document our intention.
Okay, can we just ask a quick question? In the last 6 months or so, how many people have we had to decount because of that?
It's a small number of the houses.
Well, down to
1-2% tops. It's not a high number. Well, we've got over 2,100 houses, so less than 20 dollars.
That's enough, right? Let's say now, okay, 20. The follow-up to that, before you have to meet the stage of decanting, that was got a stage so far that you have to be in the decanting. I suppose that's not going to be able to pass.
Okay, it's not necessarily because we're down the model so that sometimes what is the work that we have to carry out are conducive to the resident reaction statement. So sometimes we could do it in some cases we carry out works in situ where the resident has specific health issues, mobility issues, or any sort of respiratory problems. We would look to keep them out of the property while we carry out those sort of level of intrusive works. But it may be in another household, literally could be next door, that we can carry those works out with the resident in situ.
So that's kind of
resident into account.
And that's what people want. When you hear that to decant, then you can say that it's so hard. Okay, so that's your experience. That's okay. Thank you. And so
I've got some follow-up questions to the question from Councillor Cheddar, and he refers to the Ombudsman. Now, my understanding is that the Ombudsman's report started on the 15th of February, but presumably officers were informed on the 15th of February that there was an Ombudsman case on this property. When were executive members informed?
The executive members are not informed of every investigation that comes through from the housing ombudsman or the local government. I don't have a timeline. We can provide that but that would not be normal practice. If we are told that there is a report that will be issued by the ombudsman, that would be the time that we would notify, because we didn't know until the determination, the draft determination.
Question to the politician. If I was running a gig and there was potential bad news, normally I would ask them, can you give us a list of all the possible cases that could come up? But why didn't you do that?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I think we work with them. And when these cases do arise, I'm informed, and then we take the as they are. Like I said, I think these cases go through a process, and once that process is determined, that's when we, as executive members, find out. But there's nothing to say that, you know, I do get casework, and casework around down mould, and any complaints, sometimes we get complaints, they are formally done to housing officers to deal with. But again, like I said to you, with that particular case, it was 2019, 2021, we already found out about that case recently. So, you know, for me at the moment, around Downton Mould, we've got Downton Mould task force, which I have full faith in, and they're doing their job. Because I've used it many a time, right? In my own walk, I've had 2 cases of that severe Downton Mould where residents have contacted me, and I've got in touch with the Downton Mould task force, and they've actually dealt with the cases, and in one case they came to the resident.
Sorry, can I come back? Presumably there's management information, and my expectation would be it would be reasonable for an executive member to have a brief summary of key bits of management information, which will be an indicator of risk. Do you have and I would say that, yeah, for me personally, something like, you know, ombudsman reports which are potential and outstanding will be a list that I would review. Are you going to start doing that now?
Well, I'll be honest with you, we have a list of complaints. So you know, when I get residents coming to me with complaints, and if that complaint process is going still in a complaint process and it's about to go to the ombudsman, yes, we do pick it up, and I do call it up on the officers to deal with it and resolve it. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, down the mold and my residents, our tenant leaseholders, I take this role very, very seriously, and you know, I have to deal with many cases of residents not being satisfied with repair issues or damp and mold issues, and this is where it is escalated and we deal with it.
Can I ask? Follow and the officer told us that it is not a normal practice to inform of the number of cases that is going to the having going to take now the practice for you.
Yeah, I think it was
as the responsible politician to just have an idea in terms of numbers. You don't have to go into detail, but this you will have on your radar that this is X number of cases that is going. And then maybe if you want to, then you can dive on detail. It's up to you. But just to have on your radar how many cases go down this way.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think it should be. And probably also and we'll get thank you. I've got the charger and also the market.
Thank you, Chair. Just off the back of the line of questioning that we just had, I guess in regards to the queries to the Ombudsman, I'm not sure if you're aware how many queries do go to the Ombudsman, and they're not relevant until a point when they become relevant, and that's when the elected members know what's actually happening. So in the meantime, between a resident going to the Ombudsman and actually the Ombudsman dealing whether or not that is a positive or not, that process has to happen. So I just want to be clear in regards to when we're talking about cases that, you know, there are loads of cases that go to the Ombudsman, not all of them are upheld. And so the ones you do need to know about are the ones that actually at that point are upheld. And then there is to come a report to whatever it may be, because at that point we need information gets asked for, so on and so forth. So in regards to it would not be good use of resources, because every single complaint is not necessarily upheld.
Okay. That's a good explanation. However, I maintain if residents going to understand, you need to have that on your radar. What is telling us and telling you that there's a number of residents that are unhappy, whether the case is upheld or not. People just don't go to Ombudsman, they go through the process. And therefore, what is telling us is that they've gone through the process and they're still not satisfied. The Ombudsman may not uphold it. So just we need to know what's going on in terms of that. Residents in your or the responsible for, you know that you know what. This is what is happening. It's up to you.
Yeah, Chair,
I think we may need to recommend that is done in terms of a recommendation. And if the member doesn't want to do it, maybe we, as Scrutiny, can ask for that to be sent to us so we can have an overview of what's happening. Yeah,
just wondering on that, Chair, may I suggest that we get a narrative about complaints, but the number of complaints, stage 1, stage 2, and the ombudsman. Because to my mind, resort to an ombudsman is, as the Chair said, the ultimate failure. Somewhere along the line, we have failed. And if we're going to improve our systems, if we're genuinely committed, Councillor Barclay is disagreeing with that?
I'm not disagreeing, but I would say it's a little bit premature to say that we failed, because not every single case is upheld at the Ombudsman.
It's a signal of a resident's satisfaction.
Which is fine.
No, I'm chairing the meeting, so I didn't ask for the two-way conversation. Right, so you finished on the okay. So in terms of a recommendation, we recommend to the member to have the data What he does is up to him, but what I would go this for the Scrutiny would like to have the data. So the member does not want to know, we do want to know. Thank you.
No, I was just going to reiterate Councillor Hudson and by the way about complaints coming to you, and especially those that come to Ombudsman, because that tells you about the risk, both reputationally, both organisationally to the council and what we're favouring. You might want to talk about failure, but when things have gone to the Ombudsman, there's a level of perception of this group is called resident experience. Yeah. And the experience of our residents is an indicator of how well we are doing as an organisation. So being able to see that risk, whether it's stage 1, I would say probably an amber. If it goes to Ombudsman, whether it's upheld or not, that's red. And there might be a common theme, common thread, whatever terminology is now. I'm not afraid of it, but there might be a common thread in all of us complaining about what is failing or what is going wrong within the organisation or within the team. So I think it's good for us to know, and I think it should be highly highlighted for us so that we can see what's at the Ombudsman, what stage is it with the Ombudsman, how can we have contact, are they investigating, and at what point cabinet officers have known about this and what has been done in that process. So that will tell us about the investigative process, probably tell us about councillors' involvement as well, further down the line, executive members, but also crucially, how the council has responded each and every stage of the process.
Yeah.
Chair, just for clarity, how often as a commission would you want to receive reporting on that data? Are we talking about at every commission meeting? Are we talking about quarterly? What kind of reporting?
Every commission meeting would be too much, but at least twice a year, at least we should get some report on that. Is that reasonable? Yeah.
So could I just clarify on that point? There's a corporate complaints process which tracks and reports on all complaints stage 1, how many go to stage 2, ombudsman, freedom of information inquiries, all of those things. They're centrally collected corporately. So that information is available, and that's information obviously of officers that we look at.
But therefore, you just give it
yeah, so that's something that you can
that's
get
the issue.
so that should be a difficulty to collect that information.
House.
Yes,
and
filters all the different parts.
Household
data.
Yeah, what's escalated to
so it shouldn't be a difficulty with you getting.
So in terms of, so we are not where we are now in September, so it would be good for us to have a report in this about 3 months time. Like the next meeting, in fact, we don't have it now, so we will have the next meeting and then for the clock starts then, and then we get to the next meeting and then sometime or in spring or sometime will be that.
Chair, sorry. Your next meeting is the 30th of November. It's quite a short cycle, okay, so it might need to be. Yes. Thank you.
Unless, but having said that, I was just told that the information is there, and if the information is there, but I'm told that November is good. Yeah, the information is there. Okay. Thank you. 3rd of November. Yeah.
Long time. Right. Online. Are you aware of any research to this? Then you can actually treat the selling.
Okay, so what we look to do is, as I said earlier, is the fabric first approach. So what we do is we use materials that won't allow the fungus to actually set and start to grow. So what we do is we do prevention rather than cure. So it's very difficult to cure a mold growth with 6. You really have to remove it and start again. So when we look at like the external fabric of the building, we look at the outside of the window wall, we look at taking off the bonding plaster on there because that is that acts actually porous, so that can hold the water and allow the mold to grow. We'll look at putting a waterproof render onto the wall and thermal boarding, which insulate that wall as well, bring up the temperature of the wall, prevents the condensation from actually settling and prevents the mold growth. So it's more about prevention rather than cure. So once we've got a problem, we look to prevent any future issues rather than trying to treat a little bit of mold or some spores. We do have some methods we can use. There's some materials that you can paint over, you can use it, clean it, put specific chemical finishes on it that will prevent further mold growth. There's active fungicide plants we can use that will also further prevent. It's all about prevention rather than sort of just taking it and flat. I mean, we know old methodologies go around there, decorate it, thanks very much, see you in 6 months.
What you want to say is prevention is better than cure. So we should be thinking about curing rather than curing the pathway mentioned. What are the treatment it can start to eradicate it?
All our processes are and our specification for works when we go into a property that's suffering a mold would be above the papers with the specification for works. So we've got a specific. Now we've got a set of rules that we follow. So as I say, external walls, we take bonding off with the plaster off that's falling away. We'll replace that with the proper water refrigerant and thermal bonding, and that's where we'll look at prevention. We won't go for a half measure. We'll go if that's what it needs. That's what it needs. Now, different properties do different things, and we've got different construction properties in the front. So we've got some that are concrete walls, some that are brick walls. So we have to look at different methodologies for actually dealing with each of those. And we do it on an individual basis. And then we look at, again, as I said earlier, to ventilation in properties to prevent that mold growth and keep the properties dry. And I think it's been said, so dry and warm is our outlook at the end. That's what we want to provide. So dry and warm.
It's obviously a number of haven't had thought about, and I think that's because you gave us such a detailed report. It opened up a lot of answers. So apologies. I imagine members of this committee will want to chase up with you guys at some point. I did very quickly want to touch on one thing. This committee has spent a lot of time talking to this side of the table. Side of the table which deals with the housing that you owns and administrates. We haven't really talked to Councillor Lee Parkway and her team, and I was trying to think why that is. It occurs to me that even though that 52% of our residents are in the PRS system, so for our residents, the main risk from damp and mould, presumably for most people, is going to come from PRS. But we've talked to Councillor Mohammed's team. And I suppose the reason we've done that is because the reputational risk on damp and mould sits in the council. As councillors, as cabinet members, you are terrified that something might happen that can make someone seriously sick and it could be our fault. My question to you, Councillor Lee Parkway, my first question to you is got a follow-up. Do you think that we have spent enough time focusing on the risks around PRS and TA compared to the amount of time we've spent focusing on the risks around housing?
In a nutshell, yes. I would say yes. The damp and mould strategy, the partnership, it's not just a council stock document, it's all of our stock. So yes, I would say, but more importantly, I would also say that those conversations are continuing constantly on a day-to-day basis, whether it be through our environmental health officers that go out and do the inspections, whether it's through the London Council's piece where we can sit together and actually have the wider conversation in regards to damp and mould. But the answer specifically is yes, we've done what we need to do. There's always more to do. I'm a glass half full kind of lady. So, it's a case of we're doing what we need to do, but that document is not in isolation. It's not just council stock, because our residents reside in PR, and actually we're in the middle of the housing crisis. We need those properties. We need them to be safe.
Okay. Just like as a kind of final question, because I'm really interested in this point. Politically, this department together used to be a single department, and now it's been split in half. For all the things where you're working together pretty closely, like this strategy, how much harder is it to do that now that that change has occurred?
I wouldn't say it's been harder to do. I would say it's alleviated the sleepless nights for chefs. I would say, you know, we don't work in isolation. We don't work in silos. We work as one council. And so the area, I think the division of the two areas are very clear. You know, I have the private rented sector. I have housing needs. Shavs has all the modernisation and the services through housing. It's very clear the division. So there isn't no grey areas. I would say it, you know, I think it works really well. I guess I'll pass over to Councillor Mohammed to maybe give his thoughts, but I would say it personally worked very well because it frees you up as an elected member to be able to deal with the residents, the landlord that you need to deal with in my area, but also frees you up to deal with the leaseholders and the residents in our own shop. So it's
and I think what I would really add is that like finding which we deal with the council side of the service, whereas the association we deal with that. Resident scrutiny groups actually would try to build a housing service which is fit for purpose, and actually we want to live up to decent home standards. So, like I said, the investment is going into our current stock. We want to make sure that not only that's the right amount of going in, but can leaseholders, residents have a say in the way we're shaping housing services. And you know, I came in within that case for those. We didn't have a resident engagement team that is currently being built. We're currently working on getting more associations. We've got resident scrutiny groups. So when all these groups start coming together and these areas of housing start coming together, reporting, reducing damp and mould, upgrading our council stock, looking at making it more energy efficient, like I said, looking at ways of preventing damp and mould, detecting damp and mould. These are the sort of things that we're going to be doing over the next 4 years, make sure that service is fit for purpose and building a service around the user, which is the resident, and not around the management.
And just very quickly, it's not a question, more comment. Does this mean that we're going to get 2 EQAs
for
each service line for PRS and TA and for?
Can I just say, we may have 2 cabinet members, but we are one housing department with one director, and we very much consistently work across all the teams. What housing needs does is affected by this area over here and vice versa. The whole point of this strategy is a one housing, one council approach, which looks at our residents and dumping to our residents in any tenure. So the EQIA take on board, you know, the suggestions you've made, but the EQIA is looking at this strategy as a whole on how all our residents as a whole are affected by dumping mold. So I don't see that there's a requirement to do 2 separate EQIA because this is a housing strategy. The fact that we have 2 cabinet members who are dealing with different parts of housing, because housing is such a massive area, doesn't mean that operationally we don't operate very much as one team. So interesting.
Thank you. That would be the last question. So thanks for coming. And what we as a commission have gathered, obviously, is the strategy here, as nothing is there. It's a real strategy. The aim of the strategy, as you clearly said, is to eventually eradicate down to more. Relatively, like get on daily records or whatever. But we know the aim is to get rid of dampen more than eventually. And the dampen more taskforce has been set up, which is a good thing, and we mentioned 8.30 million has been estimated, but 2,000 plus schools have been inspected and tried to address. We know that where there is decanting, because much of dampen more, but maybe we have to rip up pipe and whatever, right? So we get that. From our conversation, it's led us to recommend that you councillors get an oversight in what is going on with them so that you can keep a councillor Beckett able to hit. It's about reputational damage, we are about resident experience. We want to know what our residents are experiencing in the field. Very important on that means something they've gone through the council processes, etc. We in Scrutiny are going to be seeing this twice a year. Same information. The first is going to be on November 3rd, and then the clock starts there, and the etc. So I might need to talk about the impact assessment, etc. So thanks for coming. Been insightful, and I wish you the very best from of the implemented and we have the strategy implemented that means our residents have a very good experience. If that is what it's about.
Like I say, but at the end of the day, you know, we're building a habit of starting around the race. I want to make sure that all our homes are decent home standards. So that is the aim for me, to make sure we're lifting up standards and actually building a resident with TAs, HLOs, and resident scrutiny panels, hold every part of housing services to account. So that is the main aim.
I want to ask them, although we don't have direct responsibility, but we can leverage through the landlord license scheme, and that could even be moved to. It's not just the stock that you have direct responsibility for, but that the council and our residents, the private sector, they need to have a positive experience to the council of that before. So,
so I can share some. So your direct intent is private rented section to be. Could you say that again?
Okay. The private rented sector, our residents, some of our residents are experiencing that and more.
Yeah.
We have some leverage that we can lever related to the landlord scheme and whatever mechanism that we have to ensure that our residents in those sector, in the private sector, also have a positive experience.
And they do. That is happening.
Yes.
We are one of the best in regards to it.
Okay, and we know that we know that we're one of the best. We have to test that at another time.
We've got the figures if you want them now. They're going to report.
You see, the thing about the report, we have the benefit of the report. I have to think about the residents. The residents doesn't have the benefit of the report. So when we say something, we have to so that they can. So thank you for coming.
Chair, we do report to central government, and in the report we do have which residents are able to access. It does state where we are in that.
But when we have a public meeting like this, they want the answers. They don't want to go. They want the answers to be given. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you, Councillor Lee. I'm starting. Okay. Okay, so we now move on to item 6 of the agenda. This item is to consider the hearing to provide insight into the progression from your Concord Contact Center. Following transition on the fiscal telephone system with the Ring Central solution. The report also outlined the context of the upgrade, the challenges encountered, the positive outcome achieved, the disruption addressed, and the training gaps identified. The report also includes details of how this transition has been navigated to align with your commitment to efficient and resident-focused delivery. It also includes some details about ongoing initiatives aimed at enhancing new uses of Ring Central, including a comprehensive system review, exploring untapped functionalities, and advanced training. Now, over to yourself and your colleagues to introduce this. 3 minutes should be about enough for you.
Yeah, 3 minutes is fine, yeah. So I hope you report. We're definitely on a journey. There's a lot of improvements that need to be made. We're making good progress. We're obviously happy to answer any questions that you may have to read through the paper that we sent through. I would just add that obviously the Cisco system was absolutely very old, needed to be upgraded. It was just unfortunate, but you know, we had identified that was something that needed to be done. And colleagues in ICT were leading on that, and it didn't quite happen before we found that it didn't work. But we found a solution, Skype, and it's actually the functionality is that definitely service for our residents. There's a lot that we can do, that we weren't able to do with Cisco, just so that residents will have a better experience on those contacts. James, do you have anything?
Yeah, sorry, James Foss, Assistant Chief Transformation Officer. I oversee the Resident Experience Directorate and all other areas. Just the only thing to add, so that very helpful summary to kind of background context to moving to Ring Central. If you note from the report, particularly referencing to the date of the system outage, the immediate response to maintain our mainline 2000 number 21st March through to implementing the system in 31st of May. Despite all of the kind of lessons learned that need to be discussed, I think that's hopefully off the topic of discussion today or in other forums. It is a level of proof that the council can move quickly to kind of resolve fundamental capability issues in ICT. Certainly from our perspective on customer services and resident experience, working with the team that led on the rapid deployment of Ring Central. That most recent experience has been far more positive than the years of experience that led up to this position. The last thing I say is that among many benefits of Ring Central, it's become 5.5, 5.1. The main one I just want to point to is the previous solution was an on-premises solution. So based in a bit of hardware located on the council's ICT site, which was also part of the reason why it was unsupported end of life. You know, those rates very outdated nowadays. Many organisations have those solutions in the cloud. Ring Central is a cloud-based solution, which means it's hosted in a professional data centre off-site. There's professional services maintaining those data centres, so 24 hours a day, fully backed up, and those growing at 99.99% uptime for the users, and that's proven to be the case. It's held up to that. Prior to that, the uptime was very, very significantly worse. Calls were being dropped quite substantially. User experience was really, really poor. The last thing I'll say is you'll note that the latter back end of the report. We're now focusing less on technology because that's now in place, and more on practice and improvement processes within the call centre. That's the really important next step of the journey. Now we've actually got a fund. I'll leave it there.
James, and 3-4 months ago, you done mystery shopping now, you ran. Have you done, or maybe council, have you done that?
I haven't called the contact centre. I haven't had them call me back. But I have considered doing it, but you just don't want to just call just for the sake of calling. But I have been on the other side and listened to the people that call in, and we've got screens that show queue times and how long people wait for and how many people wait. So I've seen it from that side, but I personally haven't.
So, as somebody who is responsible for that, and we might be the mystery shop to feel what the residents feel, because I have of course called the staff, and I just call it as a member of the public, and not going through the entire experience. So the question is, the experience today which was a bit and now what will be different? And I suppose you cannot say what will be different if you never called.
I mean, I have called them before. I haven't in recent months.
So if I were to call today, what difference would be from then to now? What would the resident experience be?
I think it should be that, you know, the call wouldn't drop out. So it was quite high for which was due to the system, but the system can hold up now. So all the and I can tell you in 3 months' time that we definitely see an improvement in calling and with the extra training of the staff so that they can deal with things in a more efficient.
So when I called one time a week for 20 something, one time a week for 40 minutes or more. So how long, if I work for a day, how long would I be waiting?
It depends on what you're calling for.
Before somebody answered, how long would I be waiting?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we will reach our target.
What's the target for the public? Yeah. 15 seconds. Wow. Okay. So it's a target to be achieved, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's an ambition.
Yeah. But when I was saying that in what we're calling it that, so once the call is answered, depending on which option you press, that's the skill set that the person would need. So if it's about taxing, about, I don't know, parking or something else, not all staff are trained to do all the different things, but it depends. Everyone's calling about that particular thing, that particular time. So that's why I said it depends on what each officer with that skill set.
So I suppose scrutiny will have to test this on itself, especially seeing that I've called before. I should call again. So we need to get. Can I ask some of our colleagues to just do the mystery shopping too, to the feedback on the experience? Okay. So yeah, thanks.
Helpful. One other thing that's got a feature of the improvement program is kicking off a mystery shopping program, and I'll be very happy to not only share the details of that program and methodology, which might be useful when I'm saying mystery shopping, but also I think it'll be useful things to report back, perhaps this particular commission on the learning and outcomes from that, just to help kind of give a bit of framing to that exercise too.
Correct. So I see Councillor Godfrey, then on.
Thank you. So just now we had a meeting with the housing team, and the papers they gave us were incredibly detailed. They went through every question we had asked them previously in a pre-meet, and they answered it as best they could, but they addressed all of those questions. It was a really detailed, really good paper. I'm really disappointed with the paper that you guys have given us for this session. We had a meeting about a month ago to work out what kind of evidence we wanted to get from you guys. And we asked for things like KPIs, we asked for things like SLAs, we asked for things like the call the drop call. We asked all of these metrics and measurements, and none of them appear in this document. We know that those KPIs exist because you reference them within the document, but you haven't given us those KPIs. You haven't given us those SLAs. You haven't given us the data that will let us scrutinize this area properly. So the way this scrutiny session is going to go, I think, is we're going to hear some kind of esoteric stuff that we can sort of just about take from this paper, but we're going to limit what we can scrutinize because we haven't heard that data, we haven't read that data, we haven't received that data. And it's not like you don't have that data. That data is available from a Freedom of Information Act because you had it. So we could get it. But I think we were all hoping that you would have given us that data because we're the scrutiny committee. I was really, really disappointed not to see that data and not to see kind of more fundamental things from this paper. I don't really have any idea what the strategy is for the new phone line, the new contact center. I don't really have an idea what the vision is for the new contact center. There are so many questions that could have been addressed by this paper. What's going to happen to a contact center in increasing government funding cuts, increasing local government funding? What's going to happen to the call center when we're trying to move people away from phone lines towards other channels? But none of that appears in this paper. I was really, really, really disappointed by it, and I wanted to put that on record. I also think that there is an error in the paper because in the executive summary, you say that this paper outlines the context of the upgrade, the challenges encountered, and the positive outcomes achieved. What on earth are these positive outcomes? Because I can't find any of them in this paper.
Okay, so given what the member has said, the first thing before you say what the positive outcomes are, can we be given the explanation as to why the KPI hasn't been given us the information? Yeah,
so apologies for not meeting expectations on the paper. I think the kind of cause of that has been a kind of intention to kind of respond to a very specific initial conversation request about focusing on the system itself. Does that make sense? The actual technology challenges that were faced through the Ring Central disruption, the outage that kind of resulted in a learning aspect on it. But I can completely see the point that, you know, in absence of sort of wider information about the performance of the contact centre service itself, which isn't really covered in the paper, it's not meeting expectations I clearly would met but haven't been received or responded to. I'll apologise for that personally. Sounds like something we can immediately respond to and provide further evidence on. I hope it hasn't, you know, completely wasted the opportunity in this meeting to kind of cover some of the content, hopefully. And in terms of the positive outcomes, the only ones that are referenced in the paper, I think I could link that to would be the technology, the resilience around the technology, which is what the paper is focusing on, which is the system. We've got sort of 99.99% uptime for the actual technology solution itself, which wasn't the case prior. In fact, there were many outages during business hours, out of hours, which I can get the stats on the previous kind of downtime, but it was much more significantly worse than that. And sort of the functionality that the new system gives us around things like the ability to kind of offer ringbacks to residents, which are used to be kind of put into the system, which wasn't available on Cisco. Our ability to have individualised performance stats for individual members of staff, that was really difficult to get out in the previous system. Those are the sorts of things that I think that executive summary is responding to. But I don't want to say that in a way that suggests I don't completely accept the fair challenge and obvious mismatch between what's been provided here and what obviously was intended by the Commission. So apologies for that.
For future learning, and I just need to know, did you have a clear understanding of what you required by the KPI, or the key lines of inquiry?
So what I recall was it kind of taken as an instruction was the original Teams call conversation that we had. I don't recall receiving anything further as a kind of specific key line of inquiry for this report, although I may say a wider topic that may be shared. So I can give you what I recall receiving.
So if that hasn't been received, that's an issue which perhaps we can take away and check that was sent. We had a long meeting that overran by quite a long time. specifically because we wanted all of this detail in the context. If that's not your fault, then I apologise. But perhaps scrutiny teams, we can take that away and work out what was sent over to the directors. Thank you.
Okay, we have need to get to the bottom of this in front of this. And given other residents' experience that they have had it in the past, the property very great indeed. But now all the proof of the tourism in here, so we just give nothing but think, you know, 90%. Get that. Yes.
So 99.9% uptime, very, very good. But as you say, that hasn't translated back to resident experience. I frequently, and apologies again, because we don't have the data, we kind of have to go from anecdote. I've made a note of some of the things that residents have said. So firstly, I have a screenshot from a resident who just wanted to report a dead bird in the road. She couldn't access Lovegreen Streets, which would be the normal way to do that. So she wanted to report this dead bird. She went through the main contact centre, which, as I understand it, from 4.6, went live with this new solution on the 31st of May. The screenshot she sent me shows that she was on the phone for 59 minutes, and in conversations with her, I found out that she had been passed to 3 different people. I myself, Councillor McCalman suggested that we do some mystery shopping. I had the opportunity to do that on Monday. A tree had fallen down in Upton Park Road, and I wanted to report. I reported it through Upton Street, but I also wanted to report it through the call centre, so I'd get an opportunity to report that. I was passed to 2 different people when I went through the main contact centre. I did fall off, and the whole call lasted 38 minutes. We don't have the KPIs, so we can't see it. What on earth is the approach to get this up to a standard that we want there? And what standard is that?
Well, the standard, in my opinion, is that these parts of the time deal with the issue. You know, they have to pass from someone else, or to get passed from someone else, pass to the person. And, you know, that's not a acceptable amount of time to be on the phone to report a tree. That's an industry. Essentially, we did report in another one. And then we can test to see what it was like called. So, no, that is unacceptable. And why do know?
Follow up on that, but it's quite interesting. Yeah. I suggest that everyone associated with concept accident and charter and Yes, go on.
Could we just ask you to introduce yourselves?
I'm John Stroud. I'm a service development manager, works for Resident Experience, and I've been acting up to the part of the contact centre for the last year or so.
Thank you. So my question is, in the paper, there's a lot of optimism here, isn't there? There's a lot of optimism. And you talk about not being able to set targets yet because a guy read that the system's not fully embedded yet, so you can't set targets. Is that right?
There's 2 kind of factors at play. One is there's an inevitable period of like bedding in of new processes and use of the technology and tools, which does take time for a team to adopt. It's a major change from previous. And there was a significant period prior to Cisco going down where there was no ability to report on performance of the individual member staff, which is no data. The service completely failed that. So in many ways, we're working from a baseline having very little information and data performance targets on a new system. And there is both a kind of technology gap around that and a skills gap in the team that will take some time to address.
So it's the systems.
So being really honest about it, yeah, partially. And if you kind of refer, I know it's really on the paragraph 8.5, what we've set out are some of the kind of really important improvement priorities for the future. They do refer to things that I think point to some long-term systemic issues in performance in the call centre. One example is the need to have a really clear set of offers and processes that staff within the call centre are meant to work from. There's a long list of responsibilities that have kind of grown over many, many years based on temporary grant arrangements and funding arrangements from different services to pick up different responsibilities, which I think has really diluted the focus of the call centre on a range of different things that don't necessarily form a kind of really clear offer. There's a range of other things around like individual management, one-to-ones, check-ins, use of data in those one-to-ones and check-ins to manage and promote higher availability on offices and calls that hasn't been in place. So it's a mixture.
Okay. So essentially the centre has been badly managed over the years. You're pressing restart and you're starting again, introducing a new infrastructure. That begs the question, why are you setting targets around the system and not around residents? Shouldn't we have more ambition to say, actually, we will do this for residents, we will answer the phone promptly, we will get you right to the person on the first time? Why are we constantly blaming the system? Why are we not able to be ambitious in this area and say, this is what we want to do, we will find a system that fits this? Because I am very fearful that you're going to come back to us in a year's time and still say, it's not us, it's a system. When are we going to get some ambition in this area?
Yeah, I think the ambition is there. I think I did set out the facts what I would like to see in the service. And we've got the essential for a year. We needed a process. There were no policy. The intention was fitting what we needed. The time that we had and actually look into it. There is a lot that I don't sit on the phone and hold. I press a button and they call me back and it's my turn to be answered. So it's all those sort of capabilities that always
So, Chair, to curtail this conversation, could I request that we get a further report that actually lists your ambitions?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was going to ask you and see what ambitions are. Okay, and then what is the come back in the report what ambitions are. That's okay. Then one comes to us.
This report is absolutely dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. It shows a level of contempt for members that I haven't seen in my 30 odd years of being a councillor in the London Borough of Newham. It is, when I used to produce reports, I had members of staff who used to produce reports for me, and I knew my audience. If a member of staff produced a report for all members, and that report wasn't good enough, I was the person who wrote it, or me and the person who wrote it, and made sure the relevant information was for the board members that they will be satisfied with the report. They may not be satisfied with the performance of the report, but they'll be satisfied with the report. So the next time, I think you need to do a bit more. My difficulty with this report was there was no data. There was absolutely no data for me to compare the old system, which we all know is dreadful, to the new system. I've got absolutely no idea. So, no doubt you have the management information. So I've got two questions. What management information do you provide to Councillor McCrane, and how regularly do you produce that management information? That's number one. So can you answer that question, please?
Yeah, so in the kind of council's performance report, one of the key indicators for this area is percentage of calls answered on time. On time is within 15 seconds, it's a corporate target. That's produced on a monthly basis, part of corporate reporting through to cabinet. There are a range of much more detailed service level indicators around abandonment rate, call availability of operatives, etc. That level of service information is not reported regularly to cabinet members. It's that overall indicator on timeliness of calls.
That's to cabinet members. That's the cabinet member who's responsible. So are you saying that the only information that she gets is the information that goes to the cabinet?
So just in terms of regular reporting, like a framework for monthly reports, that's the indicator that goes. We obviously have much more detailed conversations in sort of one-to-ones that we have fortnightly
where we will go through some of that service level data in more detail, but that's on a more ad hoc basis. So it's kind of frequency.
So do you want you the member which is responsible for a report on the performance of your service area?
Yeah, that is
That's
something.
what the question. And the question the member is asking is about, do you do that?
Yeah, so the monthly report picks up those overall indicators. That is done in a formal way frequently. The more detailed service level indicators, it's more.
It's not, James. The question is, do you do it?
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, hopefully to clarify, those overall performance indicators, the large scale ones around resident satisfaction, that is what is in the kind of regular reporting formal framework. So it's only that 90% target, cause answer on time. That is the only element of performance that is formally reported in writing. The other indicators that are more service level are not reported.
Okay, can I ask you? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What I need to know that you're and it's not on the back of the question. Do you, as a matter of course, give the consider a report, and if you do, or if you don't, just say no. And that is all I'm asking on behalf of the committee and on behalf of the residents. Do you for a report? And all of them?
I think I'm trying to answer the question, so I'm not sure.
It's not something yes or no. It's a, do you give a report? Yes or no?
Yes, there is a monthly, yeah. So yes, there is a monthly report on the overall indicators set for the service. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I want to get it. Yeah, but you're saying that you give the a summary report rather than detailed reports.
Yes.
So you see the detail. Councillor McLean doesn't see the detail.
So the detailed indicators for the service are reported not through a formal written report, and are picked up in a more ad hoc way in semi-frequent, what we have formal catch-ups, and I will refer to relevant details through that less formal channel, if that makes sense.
But one other question. The one that the only bit of data that did give us was on absence management. Yeah, and which seemed to be dreadful. And the sentence is this will be looked into to see what can be done to reduce these in terms of an appalling sickness rate. Do you have anything further to add?
But yeah, I do. So there's a few drivers of that. Apologies for pregnancy report. I can see how that doesn't give what it needs. One key thing to say is that the call centre has been primarily working for about 2 years since COVID. Staff have been primarily spending their time at home, dialing into the call centre. It was an immediate response to the obvious need to kind of get away from office spaces. The key thing that has already been implemented, I think, will have quite significant positive impacts in this area, is bringing the call centre staff back into the office far more. They'll be spending at least 3 days a week individually in the office, and relocated to the dockside, so direct management visibility on that. But there's a whole range of other management-led interventions that are being deployed immediately in the service, including regular one-to-ones to manage poor performance, direct intervention with HR to manage long-term sickness and complicated long-term health problems with key members of staff, and a much more kind of active management and leadership presence around the service that will address this. In addition to that, there's a whole range of other improvements around sort of technology systems, processes that are going to make it much more easy for managers to measure productivity and to correlate that with sickness, which hasn't been in place prior to this. And then, as part of a kind of return paper to talk about the call centre improvement priorities, I think it'd be really good for me to give you much more detail than you've got on this report.
Thank you. Can I come up with a recommendation? And the recommendation is that the lead member of the resident experience is given the report. And the reason for this recommendation is that resident experience is core to what we want to develop as a and this administration and aim of building a fairer leader. And that is built on positive resident experience. And unless the member has an oversight of what is happening in our area of volume. How can she lead and making certain that residents have experience? So the recommendation that she's giving a report, and what she does with the report is after other politicians, because then we would call her out again when we have to, but we cannot call her something that she doesn't have. If you have to give her, that's why she needs to have it. She's responsible. When we go down and knock on the doors, she will be held accountable. We will order extra, so she needs to get it. So that is a recommendation. But I didn't know what, just to make certain that the method I think we should we don't want to see it, but we just want to know that it's happening if we're going to recommend it. Yeah. So how often do we want to quarterly? Yeah, quarterly, like it's happening. Is that what we hear as Scrutiny? Yeah. So that report is going to come back to us in the quarter.
Apparently, now Cisco is one of the leading data lots of banks using, lots of big businesses using. Yet you state that Cisco did not produce the data that you. My question is, do you have any upgrades during the time that you use that system?
Yeah, so you're completely right about the global reach and reputation of Cisco as a telephony provider. They are a global leader in telephony solutions.
I work on this, so
the challenge in Newham was the hardware that was installed in our ICT infrastructure. So it's an on-premises server. Cisco don't really support that technology anymore. So it's kind of a Newham specific issue with the specific technology that Cisco were relying upon for managing calls in our borough. That was the issue. Not, I don't think it would be fair to draw kind of larger global conclusions about Cisco's ability to manage telephone calls just from the Newham circumstance, because we had a very unique and outdated hardware infrastructure they had to plug into. Cisco is just one part of a multi-chain telephony infrastructure. There are other providers that also have to integrate into our systems, which include our sort of front-end telephony technology and also our CRM system. The kind of core issues with Cisco hardware were ones that we did raise with Cisco a number of times through the sort of previous 2 to 3 year period where the system was end of life unsupported and the ICT was sort of working on it. And Cisco's main challenge in kind of offering us upgrades to their solution was the fact that they also had to integrate with other aspects of our ICT infrastructure, which were also out of date. So we've got, other providers we manage the front end of how calls come into our system, which are also on premises, and other legacy systems that Cisco looked at and said, that isn't something that we can easily integrate into because your entire architecture is out of date. So when we did do the sort of rapid improvement and market testing required to replace the system with ICT, Cisco were approached, a number of other organisations were approached to say, can you offer us a new solution rapidly to kind of respond to this outage? And Cisco, during those conversations, said, your architecture is simply too old for us to kind of integrate into quickly and put a cloud-based solution in. Amazon were another of the providers that were approached. RingCentral was I can't remember the full off the top of my head. RingCentral in that very rapid exercise were the ones that were most able to say, we've worked with your out-of-date legacy systems elsewhere, we know how best to integrate into them, and that's proven to be true in the rapid turnarounds. That's where RingCentral were able to achieve a kind of 6 to 8 week turnaround for a completely new telephony solution is really fast. It's a really fast turnaround, and it's worked, I would say reasonably well as a kind of rapid deployment. But you're absolutely right, I wouldn't draw major conclusions that Cisco as a global provider can't provide excellent telephony services. They just weren't able to do it in our very outdated old ICT infrastructure.
Sorry, just before Councillor Bourne comes in on that, if it's okay with the chair, can I quickly interject? 2 points. Firstly, I work for Council Web Services. I didn't declare that in interest because I didn't see it before, but I'd like to just very quickly declare it now. And secondly, can I please move standing orders? Can I propose to move standing orders by 30 minutes?
Right, so this new main centre, you say could deliver. It's quite a society level.
Sorry, so just in case Cisco or watch, I wasn't saying anything best practice, that it was our system, so it's not Cisco the company, which is what the product had. I just wanted to say that and to apologise if I the wrong impression that it's
but this is the one that done every.
Yeah, so this was supported by the shared ICT service, which is shared between Havering and Newham. In many ways, we share similar challenges with Havering. We've also had a similar solution to us. With Cisco, that was also hardware-based, on-premises and end-of-life. There were some complicating factors around the fact that some of this infrastructure was shared with Havering that did slow down ICT's ability to get through this mess before we ended up with the entire system falling over. In a weird way, falling over the Cisco system really simplified matters for us, and we were very able to be clear about what we needed in a kind of divert way from joint architecture in this instance, and to rapidly then just develop a new only solution. I do think there is quite a learning point about shared ICT architecture, which might be in the life as well.
Thank you, Chair. So it looks to me that Ring Central System is the solution and answer for most of the technical problems that we had before in terms of ultra costs, let's say clarity on board. But the system itself is not only the answer for resident experience, but the human touch as well. And Councillor Kali, you have mentioned earlier that the aim is to get off the ball in 15 seconds. But it also depends where you have mentioned the skills of the person who is calling. Now, we live in one diverse form in the country where all the residents' first language is English. And then not all, also there are residents, elderly residents we have, who need to be dealt with patiently. So let's say, for example, if I call and let's say it goes to, I press some other button which I don't know, and I don't have the skills. Does that mean that I have to wait for time? Or can't we have a system where it goes to one department, that department will immediately understand and transfer to another department? So that's one thing. The second thing is that in terms of first language, I can have that answer as well. And also when I talk about human touch, do we have training in place for, and I'm sure there is, but just for clarity, do we have a training in place where residents feel satisfied if the problem is not solved, but at least the way the residents have been dealt over forward?
Okay, so just on the first question about skill set, maybe I wasn't clear. So it's actually the person that's answering the phone skills rather than the person on the other end. So the point that I was making earlier on is that obviously staff are trained, but they're not trained in everything at once, if that makes sense. So they'll be trained in the core areas, and then as time goes on, they'll be trained in how to do support, and then the different skills are the different options that so someone may just be trained in option 1, 2, and 3, which is just perfect, or 1, 2, and 3. But the person who's 4, but they'll have to wait for the person who's skilled in 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So that the opposite rather than the skills, if that makes sense. And just on the training, so we are going to have enhanced training, not only on the system, but on the way to deal with residents, and to make sure that the residents experiences a positive experience. And we've had recent meetings with journalists, because I'm sure that many people have taught journalists,
it's a great experience. I've always had a good experience, it's great for us to learn from others and how we can build a proper training package for our staff. So you think they would be perfect, but you know, some slip in that aspect, and also about the
language.
The language, yeah.
John, I think my best place.
I think so. I think you're talking about if you get through to someone and they deal with someone speaking a different language. By the way, yeah. So there is some work being done in this area. I think within adults around policy actually to improve this, our access to language shop. Because currently we don't have a direct budget for language shop. We don't use them directly, but they're all great resource. The current policy has been not to sort of translate on the phones directly for people. So this is a bit of a hangover from previous processes that probably need to catch up. And that's why someone in adults and health is actually looking at this policy to actually give us some improvements of access to translators more easily. And I think we could sort of furnish some details on that. In the meantime, yeah, the main way that we help people is a practical way. Is there anyone that can help you, on your side doing the call? Or also another practical way, we do have people who also speak with languages in the call centre, we might transfer them. So this is like a pragmatic way to deal with this situation in most examples. I think ideally we need to improve that flow of connectivity.
And the back of that, the conversation that took place just now and listening to it, and it gives me the impression that it is staff that we have to train. The staff is the same. It is only the system from Cisco to Ring Central. But when someone calls in, whether the first option wants to contact us of a parking ticket or a ticket, the staff should already got the answers that no, how to direct them out to respond to the question. That should be at least in my opinion, because they've been doing this for years, irrespective of what system they're using, whether they're using say for market advertising for the Apple phone or Samsung phone, is irrelevant to their ability. And as Councillor was saying, the residents' experience and the residents' experience when they interact, you know they pause one because of Cisco taking or whatever. But once they get through now, the experience should be better in terms of the system. But then the quality of the service, I don't think there's much in terms of staff, because as if I wanted to know that they might contact, I should know it last year from the info.
Yeah, so just to be clear, so when, as I was thinking about skill sets, so for example, perhaps that's a benefit, it's a separate team of them. So the general person that might answer the phone and be in contact with doesn't have the skills to answer the question with regard to the direct. So that's redirected to that's another skill set. But as James mentioned before about performance, that is also an issue that will cause residents to not have a great experience because people make efficiently. And also James has mentioned about being in office. So if you're on the phone and you get up in the morning, put your clothes on, look smart, go to work. It's going to be, you could be in a different mindset. So if you just roll out your phone, you just be on your dramas, phone like this. Do you know what I mean? It does. That's why we want staff to come into the office so that they talk Spanish, that we know what's happening, and that we, peers together, you work better in the team within
So you're looking at actually question,
Yes, it's definitely the manage.
Training is a continuous process, and so when we are talking about training, what benchmark do you use that okay, the training has been done and we are satisfied with the person is now ready to get on the ball? So that's one question. And the other one is that, if I'm not wrong, you mentioned that remote staff are getting to the office 3 days a week. If we know that, let's say the motivation or, for example, the level of service working from home is not the right view, why are we getting 5 days of quarter?
Yeah, we'll training.
Oh, yeah, I didn't quite catch into the second question. I'll answer the first one first. Okay, so with the training, we obviously can't train everyone and everything straight away. So we approach, as you just mentioned earlier, we've got skills-based routine on that center, and there's about 10, 11, 12 different types of skills that they need to master, from housing to environment, social behaviour, etc., etc. We tend to train them first on general inquiries, which is basically taking basicals and learning how to look at things on the internet and practicing their skills in a kind of sort of crash environment. So first they're a trainer, and then they're supported with some senior officers who crash them and listen to their skills. When we're doing the training, they're looking to ensure that a checklist of all the things that they trained them is emulated by the staff as they do the training. So they'll be sort of working through that. But also alongside that, there's a quality monitoring approach to ensure that they're going through the calls in a managed way, doing proper routing, ensuring they're looking up the information on the system, asking relevant questions, and closing the meeting, offering transfers relevant, but also trying to see if they can resolve the things within the call themselves. I mean, ultimately, what we're trying to do with the training is get the staff competent enough to be able to answer about 2/3 of the calls that they get. Now, most of the call center deals with kind of like the big volume, common types of queries. And we want to try and make sure they answer those things right first time. But if they need to transfer to someone else in another department, then they do that. So we monitor things as we're training people and we're giving them extra skills. We monitor things like transfer rates to see that they are kind of achieving a good transfer rate. When you're quite new, you're going to transfer quite a lot. And at the moment, because there has been a lack of training while the system went down, there's a lot of people at home. There's a bit of catch up on training at the moment, and some of the things that people can experience as people come back, when the sectors come back up, we come through Skype, we walk in the office. Technical reasons we couldn't have them. Sorry, am I? Yeah.
And there's one aspect of the question I don't think you can answer, which is about moving further to more presence in the office. We actually are immediately implementing that as of this week. We're going to be going to 4 days a week, I think from beginning of October, and there is a direction of travel towards 5 days a week from the process stand at the moment, because we are recognising the impact that is having and needs to happen.
Before I bring those, I'm told that staff they are measured in terms of the number of minutes they are allocated per call, and sometimes the resident is not satisfied, but because the staff know that what my management tends to because I'm taking too long to take the call, sometimes they tend to rush the call, and then the resident is upset. And that goes to the heart of a resident experience. If I'm calling that I'm being rushed or short thing, I'll be upset. I'm likely to make a complaint, or I'm likely to that call answer, the deal might bring and then they might be getting a part performance and report. Is there are you aware of this?
Yeah, John's probably best placed, but perhaps want to keep the answer a bit brief on last one.
Right, yes. Yeah, there is kind of a sweet spot to the length of the call, but basically it probably hovers, if we're going to be efficient, around about 5 minutes. But we don't really focus the officers on 5 minutes. It's more important to ensure that they're doing the right amount of time for the person front. So we need to be mindful of resource, ensure that the calls don't go on too long. So we need to help people efficiently, but yeah, we do try and coach them and train them to achieve efficient call handling, which will end up with about 5 minutes, but not want to overpressure them. If a call needs to take 10 or 15 minutes, it needs to take that long. If it's 2 minutes, it needs to take that long. So it is obviously potentially call centres that people are aware of time, but it's about balancing that. And obviously, if there's any things where that doesn't go right, we want to try and bring from that.
I was
just going to say, I might say that when I was in the context, I didn't experience that, and that's not what I would expect. That's well, I mean, I was just going to say when I call, for example, Amazon, you know, you can't leave the call until you say I am satisfied. Is there anything else I can do this way? Is that okay? Are you happy? And that's the sort of stuff I start doing.
When you visit the court sector, of course.
Okay, if they don't know, so you're missing shopping.
Yes,
okay, right. Because okay, let's say you didn't explain that.
Yeah.
Because if you're there,
no, they don't know that.
Okay.
And there is that capability now in central, and it's not.
Okay, but I'm sorry then, because obviously they don't know you're here.
No,
Thanks, sure. Yeah, it's great in terms of, I guess, your vision, what you want, and your aspirations for the service in terms of the journey. I just want to quickly go back a few years. I had the privilege in a previous role to sit on the interview panel for the Director of Resident Experience back in 2001. Not 2001, 2020. But I think that's the danger of being around long enough, you've got long memory. And again, we spoke about the journey. I think we need to get to the destination. And you know, there's a lot of things in the very report that talks about improvements on a clear line of advice, KPIs. I'm thinking that director that we hired, how much of her work is still in here, or are we starting from scratch again? And in terms of the training package, are you listening to those bad calls that go wrong? So I think you can train the technical aspects. But I think what, and again, it's my experience, what residents want is one, resolution. How many of these cases get resolved? And a bit of empathy, because I've called on behalf of residents, and sometimes the empathetic tone of our call center handlers is less than that. And if I was someone who probably not as bad in scars, a counsellor on doors getting turned away, I would probably feel it's more of a right service than an Emirates service. And I want us to be the Emirates leading, local government chronicle winning service. And I feel as though right now, having had the experience of having someone who came in back in 2021, and if they're still in the organization or not, I don't know. Sustainability, corporate learning, what we're doing right, and how do we improve, and how do we get to the destination at the end? When is that likely to be there? Can you give a definitive figure? Can you give a definitive figure? Is it going to be 2024? Are we going to be next year and we can say we've had a market improvement? It's not 100%. I wouldn't want a 100% target. It would be nice, and we'll probably fail on that. If it's going to be 80%, can we be that aspiration? 75%, 80%. That every single resident that calls one walks away with a smiley face, or however we want to record it, smiley face. They're very happy. They're very satisfied with the service. we've got 75% transfer rate, call rate, resolution rate. I think every single call handler should be trained up in those 10 generic areas. I think as counsellors, we have to be specialists in, jack of all trades, specialists in none, but we still have enough knowledge that we can refer things to. I think we can't necessarily expect less of our officers, our cohorts of people with the forward, front-facing people, disciplined officers, operatives that our residents experience. I want to see, one, the question is, how much of that learning from that officer who was hired has still retained over? Have we lost the corporate there? And how much of this will be definitively defined and assessed? Can we say next year, or can we say 2 years from now? Although hopefully I would like to say next year, we look at the 75% improvement, and I'll be happy as Larry.
Let's start with so that start on reading so long, and we've not gone from square one. What the work that happened still in place. I'd like to just talk briefly about the resident experience standards, which is some of the work that obviously did, which ties together the contact centre and just the way that we want residents to experience the council as a whole. So it's not just about the contact centre, every single staff that they will come in contact with or just interaction with the council should be at a certain level across the whole organisation. And the last thing I will say is that in a year's time, yes, there will definitely 100% be, not 100%, but there will 100% be improvements, and you'll be able to see that. And I can guarantee
quantify that thing. Can you give us a quantifiable figure and say it's going to be 75%? That's our aim, our aspiration.
I can't give you a figure right now, but I know that there's definitely a marketing figure there.
Jane, before you go, we only have 17 minutes, and we have other business to conclude. However, Councillor, I think we should pursue on a figure.
Okay.
Because you are here now,
yeah,
and this is the only forum that the residents, we can engage you on behalf of the residents, as council, and you should be ambitious enough and trained to give us a figure that you will be working towards. This is a brand new system. In your fortnightly conversation that you've been having, I'm sure you and James will be talking about where you expect the service to go. So I'm going to ask you what would look like in front of you. Please, can you reconsider and give us a figure?
What is the figure for?
In front of where the kind of improvement and James can repeat it, but in front of the level where they are. You are saying 75%.
75%, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so reasons to put a target of 80% calls answered within 15 seconds within the year as one of the many metrics I think is
resolved as well.
Exactly. It's really
on the spot. That's one that I think can easily be committed on the spot, and there are a range of others that no doubt.
So that is a recommendation. So it will answer within 15 seconds, but not just answer within 15 seconds, but it's successfully resolved because it can be answered. But the resident may go, as you say, member, with the smiling face. Yes. As you said with Amazon, is there anything else I can do for you? And the resident says, no, thank you, I'm happy. Member,
And that's something we want to start to measure, which we don't measure at the moment, that post-call satisfaction.
Chair, just for the minutes, although I know I have been recording, we committed to 80%, yes. Not 75. Thank you.
Yeah. 80%. Okay, right. So we only have 15 minutes now, so please be succinct in your answer. Chair. So yes. But the answer, the question hasn't been answered yet. That way. Okay. So if you answer that, I see other people want to come in, but I do need to continue of the business.
I'll try and be brief. Yeah. So in terms of sort of, I think we've addressed the sort of ambition, high level target. There'll be much more detail behind that overall target, which I think this commission and we would be interested in describing. And in terms of sort of whether we're starting from square one or not, I think Councillor has answered that at a very, in a very clear way. There are clearly some things that officer was able to deliver, and we've managed to carry that forward. There were also things that we were hoping that role, I'll not refer to individuals to be fair, to HR process, etc. that role was not capable or did not kind of demonstrate impact around, which have been actively addressed in the current planning around leadership and management. That's clear enough, but that's kind of where we are.
So I've seen there's two members. People have me. So the second question.
It's a matter of principle, and I have great difficulty when managers and directors set their own targets. I do actually believe that it is down to the executive and the men to set the performance targets, and they should be tough targets. I would accept 80%, that's me, okay? But as a matter of principle.
Yeah, but that's why I was asking exactly what is the percentage, what is it? Within a certain time, is it that of this, that? So that's why I said I'll come back with my own people back with.
Okay, so you said 80, is there only the minimum of 80? Not, I did the mayor, I thought that. But that brings me on that question. Now we have slide of your suite of KPIs in terms of this. As the member said, no, we are doing this blindly, etc. For us, if we have maximum of so, and when can we have that?
Within whatever required timescales for the commission.
I tell you what, we are
standards we'll meet.
We are going next meeting in November.
Sure.
And then that can fall on the tendencies to our November, and just as a supplementary to that.
Cool.
Etc.
Yeah.
So I've just Googled the word working from home productivity, and I'm just going to read some things for you. It says, on average, those who work from home spend 10 minutes less a day being unproductive, work one more day a week, and are 47% more productive. That's the first thing that comes up. Second thing, on average, remote work productivity was over 7% higher than in-office productivity, while 1/5 of employees spread out work half feel more productive when working from home. Can you please write down the evidence basis on which you're bringing people back from home? Can you just assure me that officers are going to work those 3 days from the office as well? So that's just something you don't respond to that now. Give me the written data later on. Because real thing I want to talk about comes back to Councillor Vaughan's question. It seems that you described a situation where our failure to modernise our systems led to an incident. That's really concerning. Do you foresee any other failures, and is that a result of a lack of funding?
So I'll just answer the second part of the question, not the first.
Please.
Yeah. So it would be remiss of me to not point out that our call centre telephony solutions isn't the only bit of our ICT architecture that is life and held on premises solutions. You know, a number of our core business systems still sit on premises servers that are either at kind of near end of life position or beyond end of life, and that is a combination of factors. I do think part of it is, and it would be probably more appropriate if the Chief Digital Officer perhaps gave a more full answer. I'll give you my impressions. Combination of insufficient funding in kind of improving and recommissioning and transformation of those systems over a lengthy period. These are sort of decade-long, you know, consequences, and not just things that emerge in a year, if that makes sense. And secondly, there are an unendingly complicated set of joint infrastructure problems with sharing infrastructure with another borough with a different ICT service or different ICT infrastructure havering, which infinitely slows down your ability to disentangle and modernise your equipment. You're having to negotiate between two different authorities with two different transformation plans. So it's a combination of complex infrastructure and lack of investment. Chief Digital Officer will no doubt give a much more comprehensive and so answer to that, but that's hopefully helpful.
Perhaps Chief Digital Officer comes up with an answer to that question. Perhaps it's scrutinised at a later date, possibly at ONS. So I refer to the chair of ONS who's thinking my right.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, so what we would get in the future, and that will come to our meeting on the from the request from the charter, we get to report on what your ambitions are. I really didn't do that. we know that we asked that the report that we would then get, just to be told, yes, you've got to report out the conversation with that minute, just because we want to improve our experience, etc. We told that the course would be answered in 15 seconds, and I, for one, will setting that out to 15 seconds. Etc. And so on. So there should be a need for dropping, etc. So thanks for coming. We are going to get a set of KPIs, and etc. will be coming. Thanks. The next other question that is on question. If it's not question, we could send it in an email. It will be answered and you can answer.
Can I answer that really quickly if helpful?
12 seconds.
Okay, so short answer is the ICT service is being disaggregated and separated from one source and will be sovereignly held by a new in the future.
Yeah, so that's the answer. Thank you.
Okay. How much more will it cost?
I won't be able to give you that straight away.
No, we just did the answer. But that answer to that is coming to the next 10 days.
I'm happy to pass that on to the relevant officer. I clearly can't answer that.
Okay, so can we get an answer to that in 10 days?
I'm happy to pass that on via Scrutiny to the relevant officer.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks very much. I now want to, before item 4, election of the chair. Do I have nominations? It's been seconded. Is there any other nomination? Hold on. Now, I just need to do the remainder of the time that discuss what we got on board. Could be 5 minutes max to do that. Before we go, we have 2 sets of agenda. Yeah. We have the damp and mold strategy, and we have the residence experience in front of the core center. Let's take the damp and mold strategy for that. The damp and mold strategy. What do we want to say? Our objectives are being met in terms of what we want to do. And what is our feeling about it?
I think that more community more even Christian.
It's reactive, but that's why I asked the question. You ring up, I've got mold, how quickly can you sort it out? It is the planned element. So, if, for example, a planned element, if you look at the causes, guttering. So, you expect a plan for certain blocks to clean the guttering each year, or every 2 years, or every 6 months, because if your guttering is blocked, water comes over and it causes. And that. The other thing different blocks have different risks. I suspect that some of the older blocks were built. If you look at the 1960s stuff and early 1970s stuff, there's a great element of component failure. And so I'm not convinced that it was solved. And it was planned to solve it.
I might just, before we go, I just remind them that the meeting is still live, we're still here, and all I want to do is to get your take on what we covered. Well, and it's the most fun part of the yeah.
Just really quickly, I'd say on the damp mold strategy, we had a good presentation. I think we did it justice in terms of scrutinising. However, I would say that division between PRS and public sector housing, we need to dig further into that because there is a disproportionate impact for people who are living in public sector housing because they may be some of the more vulnerable in our community. And I think we need to come back to revisit this at regular intervals. My concern is that actually, once the current hiatus is over, this may not become popular. And also, the new housing inspection regime, when that comes in, I think it'd be helpful to know, maybe this could be a written question. How is damp and mold factored in that new inspection regime going forward, and how's that going to influence the damp and mold strategy?
Then move on to the next item that we send what's it going to take there.
So, Chair, I think I have a reputation on some colleagues being grumpy. I'm not grumpy most of the time, but when I read a report like that, I become so. I thought the report was really lacking, and I feel sorry for James because I worry that we didn't maybe express what we wanted from it, but it was lacking in all sorts of data, and I thought you felt that from the community. Having said that, one of the things that's arisen from that is some queries we have about their HR and staffing strategy. And I think that we need to follow up on that and make sure that any decision that's taken is driven by data. More concerning for me was the story of how the Cisco system failed, that Councillor Vaughan teased out with a very good line of questioning. I am concerned that we don't have a handle on our modernisation approach. I'm concerned that we are not modernising quick enough. And hopefully we don't get James Partis coming back to this committee in future sessions, apologising for similar mix-ups.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, just that.
Similar to what Lewis has mentioned, but I think we take resident experience, the course of the out of modernisation, because for me, modernisation includes the IT, the sparks, all these other things. This is a core service of the council. It might be modernising hardware, but the staff are still essentially the same. And it seems like there's been a systematic failure from, I don't know how far back, but the staff just aren't seem to be trained up or skilled, so maybe we need to look at other aspects of what more can be done to skill that staff cohort up. Is it simply a technical issue? I don't think it is. I think it's probably a leadership, and it's lack of leadership bound for some time. And having James Partis, who's a very busy guy, he probably needs some other director from the resident experience to look at the call center and say, how can we make it work? And that is the forward-facing aspect of the council, other than our website, and it's what our old and marketplace use smartphone. So I think disaggregate, James Partis would disaggregate from modernisation. How do we get this core function of the council, which is almost as valuable as our housing, to work properly and to divert it to one place, get it resolved, not drop people off. It's an essential service.
Yeah.
And sorry, just to, your point is the report did not cover that, how essential it is, and it was lacking. So no, to then improve the cost to us, give us more than what we can handle, so that we can take it.
I think we're so we move forward to that.
My concern is that by the time this comes back to us, there will be a whole other host of external factors. Is there any way that we can actually interrogate it sooner, giving the team enough time to further step?
We can look at it again, it's going to be fine, given that we've got a busy program. We have to decide. Thanks to your feedback on that. Its core to this is the resident experience, and the system is one, but then the staff itself, as you alluded to, James, this training the quality of the staff in dealing with residual empty, etc. knowledge to resolve it. We can look at it, we can take the survey from here and look at it in this, that it is for the manifesto commitments, it's for the illness that we have existing, etc. Core part of our delivery strategy. And we've got our work plan here. Can we note the work plan as presented? Okay. One of the things is that we may need to revisit our work plan though, because there's something that will come up like the local plan. And I think we thought we saw that we've got every commission will have to give some time so that we can get some of the present stuff that we have to get done. And the date of the next meeting is the 30th of November is not looking.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I might put this on the planners for the budget.
Thank you all, and I was
That's my qualification.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Chair, for the minutes, time of closure of the meeting.
It was 21:33,
Thank
but
you.
we started late by 7 minutes. Thank
you.
you.
You can-